Hello folks, and welcome to the weekend warm-up with me, Will Buxton, and her, Laura Winter.
Hello.
Hi. It's good to see you, mate.
It's very good to be here. Yeah, really excited to be back in the paddock. And 7 races to go this season, title fight, 2 points in it. Couldn't really be closer unless there was 1 point in it, or they were equal on points. Sun is shining. I can't wait.
I wish I'd dressed up. You're showing me up.
Oh, thank you. I always try and make a little bit of an effort, at least.
I'll make an effort tomorrow. It's been a good day in the paddock, hasn't it? Lovely to get back here to Turkey. First time for you, though, Turkey.
First time ever, even in this country, but first time also at the Turkish Grand Prix as well.
Naturally.
And all people, clearly, and all people are talking about is how brilliant this track is. And I had a little wander around it a bit earlier on with Mario Isola as well, and it does look epic.
It's a cracking track, isn't it?
Wait.
It's a wonderful circuit. Obviously, we're hoping that it won't be quite as slippery as last year. Massive grip issues for all the drivers, all the teams. As you may recall, the surface of the track having only recently been relaid, and then it just pelted down with rain throughout the weekend. So they never really got to enjoy the circuit as much as they'd hoped because they couldn't get the grip down. Everybody today, I think to a driver, hoping that those issues will have been sort of moved past for this year, although there is rain expected on Saturday for qualifying.
There is. Pirelli have gone one softer step in compound though, so there might be that bit more grip. And as you mentioned, of course, the track has been water blasted and treated, ready for this race. So hopefully we will see the full effects of an F1 car racing in anger here.
Fingers crossed. Unless, of course, you're at Williams, who were saying today they need a bit of rain in order to get the most out of the car. 4 times in the points in the last 5 races for Georgie Russell. And he says the car's good. Same with Nicky as well. They were both telling me today that they've made the steps forward with the car. The advances with the aero that they've seen since the start of the season have really put the car in that place where they can take advantage of it. P13, Georgia's minimum expectation in qualifying for the weekends now. But they need the rain. They need the weather to turn in their favour to really look at Q3 as a certainty and look at points as a guarantee for the weekend. But yeah, they're both on really good form.
And I think there isn't an F1 fan out there who isn't happy to see both George Russell and Nicholas Latifi getting up there, getting amongst it, getting stuck into the midfield, which you wouldn't have expected last season or even 2019, would you? It's brilliant to see. You know, 23 points they're on. It's great stuff. And obviously George Russell as well, twice in that top 3 in quali, both in wet conditions, in Sochi and in Belgium, the race that never was.
Yes.
But still, it's incredible for him, and of course with a move to Mercedes next year as well, the trajectory is very much up.
It really is. Now, down at Haas F1 team, who obviously haven't scored any points this year. They're in the position that Williams were last year. I got to speak to Nikita Mazepin today, who got shown a black and white flag during the Russian Grand Prix for a bit of a late move. I think it was on Sonoda. And then there was an article during the week that said, Nikita Mazepin, according to the stewards, hasn't done anything wrong. It was like that was the headline. Stewards say Mazepin does nothing wrong, which I thought was like a bit of a weird headline. Driver does nothing wrong. It's not really a story. And Nikita was like, no, it's not really. It's a bit, I don't get it either, but they've got to find something nasty to say, so I guess that's what they're saying. But he's happy with the way he's driving and saying that the stewards aren't pulling him up on it. So he's getting his elbows out a little bit, but as he said, he's trying to fight for every last position that he can. He does, however, have a different race engineer this weekend. IO, the team's chief engineer, will be his engineer this weekend. His normal race engineer has had to go home for the next 2 races because of a family emergency. And he was just saying how important the actual role with a race engineer is, and how it's going to be very difficult, how he's honoured to have IO as his engineer, but it's going to be very difficult having a new engineer for this weekend. You spoke to Mick.
I did indeed, and it's his first time in Turkey as well. We have about just that in common, and he can't wait to race this track. He can't wait to see exactly what the other drivers are hyping up, and you yourself are hyping up as well. He says it's a track in which you've got to get things right, and get things right very, very quickly. Here's what he had to say.
Looking forward to driving this track. I think in general it's a very special, very much philosophy related one, so you have to find the right way of driving it very soon, because otherwise you'll pay the price later. So definitely I think it was good to be able to prepare in a simulator, to have an idea of what was expected and how the car will behave. So hopefully we'll be best prepared for here and just able to rock it on from FP1.
And I can imagine you were disappointed not to see the checkered flag in Sochi, retiring with an engine problem. Are you satisfied that's been resolved? How disappointed were you?
Yeah, quite disappointed. Obviously, knowing that there was rain chaos late in the race, and rain and especially mixed conditions is something which I really, really enjoy. And yeah, just really ashamed that I wasn't able to drive that.
Lovely to hear from Mick. Now we're down at Alfa Romeo, taking a rest. It's been a long day, hasn't it? Been on our feet all day. No, you didn't speak to either of them. I spoke to them both, didn't I? Yeah, yes. I did. Kimi Räikkönen. Man, a few words. Looking forward to it. He's won here. Look, I was almost rehearsed, choreographed. He's won here, of course, Kimi, and very much looking forward to it. Says he hopes there's a bit more grip than there was last year. And for poor old Antonio Giovinazzi, he's just enjoying the weekends that he's, well, I don't want to say that he's got left. I had to ask him this really difficult question. I was like, how are you approaching the weekends? Is it kind of like, make the most of it? And I didn't want to say, because you know they're your last. But I said, you know, do you know where you're going? Do you know what's... And he was like, no, I don't. But I think he does. I think he knows.
It's a tough position to be in, isn't it? If you do know behind closed doors but can't yet say anything, even if you don't know, you're sort of racing, trying desperately to do your best, to prove yourself, to prove your worth, and just hoping beyond hope that you can get the most out of the car.
Well, it was the fact that all the headlines were coming out saying who'd been linked with the seat, and he said, well, you know, hoping to start talking to them soon, and you think, hey, it's just harsh, isn't it?
Hard.
Yeah, really difficult. Anyway, but he says, this is my dream, it's always been my dream, I'm just enjoying the races and racing, so yeah, good for him. Down though at Ferrari, Carlos and Charles. Charles had quite a lot to say today. He enjoyed Sochi very much, driving from the back, of course, as Carlos is going to have to do this weekend. But Charles really enjoyed himself. Even though the result wasn't ultimately what they wanted, because those last few laps, the race itself gave them a lot to be, I think, optimistic about, particularly Carlos this weekend, who, as the team announced earlier today, will be taking on a new power unit and thus will start the race from the back.
I'm actually happy to start last. It's weird to say it, but I'm actually excited about our development and an upgrade, you know. So let's see how it goes. My weekend focus is obviously going to be all in the long run. I'm probably not going to even take too much part in quali and everything because it's not worth it. But yeah, it's going to be a good opportunity also for me to understand the car in the long run, which is a bit of a weakness right now, and to understand the tire management and see if I can find something on the setup that can give me a bit of a step forward for the rest of the season.
You may wonder why we're walking the wrong way down the paddock. It's because we got the running order wrong when we were writing it down.
I'll take the blame for that one, I think.
No, it's okay. It's my fault. It's my fault. We were going to try and walk backwards.
No, we're going to walk
backwards and talk backwards, and then they could play it. I don't know. Steve, cameraman, was talking about that's how Coldplay did one of their videos. Chris Martin had to sing backwards and walk forward, so that when they played it backwards, he was walking backwards and singing.
Anyway, here is Yuki Sonoda.
Oh, there's Yuki.
Hey, Yuki.
That's completely ruined the order now, Laura, because we're not doing him until the next segment.
No. Aston Martin. Will,
yes,
you spoke to Seb.
Yes, I did. Yeah, he didn't really say much today. I think he sort of had his fill of journalists and questions in the press conference, being asked about them lifting or imposing, I should say, a speed limit on the auto route. Didn't really want to answer any questions after that. Anyway, yeah, you know, getting on with it, really, I think is all you can say about Seb at the moment. The team, the car, it's not in the place that he wants. You can kind of feel he's just making the most of it, but there's not the punch in him that you're kind of used to, the verve, the spark.
The punch that we saw earlier in the season when things were going his way. You know, he's had a podium. Okay, he had the DQ in Hungary, of course. He was up there at Monaco.
I think he's just downplaying his own expectations. I think, and when that opportunity arises, bam, he's there.
He is, and he comes alive as well. When you speak to him, you can tell he said the vigour is back. You know, he's ready to go. He's motivated.
I think he's just trying to keep his own powder dry and not get too overly expectant. But how was Lance?
Lance was good, obviously great memories here with that pole position last year, and we talk about coming alive. I don't think I've ever seen a man come quite so alive from his sort of sedentary state to Lance Stroll on pole state, as he did last year.
Yeah, exactly.
And he had brilliant memories of this track. He enjoys this track, and we saw, of course, in Sochi, he also enjoys racing in really variable conditions, mixed conditions, wet to dry, a bit of rain, unexpected. Lance seems to come alive in that.
Yeah, they suit him. They always have.
They're coming this weekend as well. Also, it may seem at the moment. Certainly Saturday looks a wet quali. So I think Lance Stroll could certainly be up there. This is a track he likes. It's a track he's got good memories with too.
Esteban Ocon, as we get down to Alpine, is another one of those drivers that comes alive in the wet conditions. I spoke to him earlier today. He was talking about 14 races that they've had in the points concurrently until Sochi. So he's feeling good. He's feeling really good, actually, about the weekend. If it rains, if they lose the grip around here, that's the kind of conditions that he excels at. Now, somewhere behind there, I just saw him on his mobile phone through the doors. Fernando Alonso has had a very busy day in terms of press relations, hasn't he?
He has. He was feisty, shall we say, in the press conference.
Yes,
less so with me. I think I kind of maybe stuck to the Turkish Grand Prix and expectations. The press conference went off in a little different direction.
For those who haven't seen, basically Fernando was asked, you straight lined the exit at turn 2, as you're supposed to do if you go deep at turn 2. But the reason everyone asked him about that was because on his recon lap from the pits to the grid, he did exactly that. So he sort of planned his route.
So wily, I love it.
Yeah, and Fernando had basically said, I'd been an idiot. All of the early part of the season, I tried to stay within track limits at the opening part of the race, and people had overtaken me around the outside on the runoff, and I've been an idiot. So in Sochi, you know what I thought I'd do? I thought I'd just do it. And now I get here and everyone's asking me questions about it, which proves that there's one rule for me and one rule for everyone else, but he didn't get penalised for it, so there isn't really one rule for him and one rule for everybody else.
Perhaps undue attention on him and not other people, but Fernando Alonso's
he thinks so. And then he said, look at Lando. Lando
he did make that insinuation, yes.
Ran over the white lines on the pit entry,
yes.
Didn't get a penalty.
Correct.
But that's just because of his nationality. Check out the next person that gets a penalty and then check out their nationality. He was punchy today.
He did not hold back at all. And then he comes to me, and I'd heard glimpses of this. I was out in the pen interviewing other drivers, and he comes to me, and I'm like, oh, do you think we could get a podium here? But sort of, let's talk about the Turkish Grand Prix, shall we? And I sort of didn't quite realise it got quite so spicy as it had in the press conference room. But no, I said to him, obviously, he's had 4 podiums here historically. He's now the highest placed driver to not have a podium, and the man who had that before him was Daniel Ricciardo, who then won in Monza and was P4 in Sochi. So my insinuation was, maybe that's a good luck charm for you, and he get a podium here. We'll see what he has to say.
I think this is the 14th race that we are in the points as a team, and that consistency is giving us a lot of points, and that's what we want also this weekend. Top 10 is our target.
You've been on the podium 4 times here, as I said. What does it take to drive well at this track?
Well,
what do you like about it as well?
Yeah, I like Istanbul. I think the layout is very nice for a Formula 1 car. You need to have the right level of downforce and drag because it's a long lap, a long circuit. I think last year we saw some challenges with the grip level with the new asphalt, so that's a question mark for tomorrow when we put the car on track, and let's see.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that backwards thing.
Just don't.
Okay, I won't.
Let's just explain that we got the running order wrong again. And we're walking backwards again, trying to duck out of view of a Lando interview.
We're walking forward.
But backwards through the paddock in the direction that we were previously walking.
Yeah.
Anyway.
AlphaTauri, you spoke to Gasly.
I did, yes, and I sensed a frustration from him. I saw a headline in the week that said, "I am ready for revenge." Which
Did you?
was punchy.
Where was that?
I enjoyed that.
Oh, wow.
I didn't see the publication,
Okay.
actually. Sorry, I haven't noticed my sources there.
Was he still ready for revenge? Revenge for what?
Revenge in the sense that he's had 2 really bad weekends. By his own standard that he set himself this season, he's had such a good first half, first 2/3 of the season, and then a P13 and a DNF. And you just sense a frustration there that he's ready to come out all guns blazing, full firing here in Turkey. He said he knows what went wrong at Sochi, he knows they can put it right, and he's ready to go here.
Yeah, he was gutted because the practice sessions had looked so good as well, and it just all fell to pieces. Yeah, really disappointed for him. Yuki, who we saw.
We waved to him to try and distract from your ludicrous ramblings.
Thanks, mate. I had a lovely chat with him today, not just actually in the pen, but we had a long form interview which will go up, I think, on the website over the weekend and for pre-race too. And God, he was amazing. He was just talking about his struggles this year, and that actually until a couple of weeks ago, he was talking about just the absolute loneliness of being a rookie in Formula 1, of living by himself, of having nobody to talk to about it. I was like, what about Pierre? He's like, not really, because he's my teammate and I'm trying to beat him, so I can't ask him for advice, and I've just been really lonely. And I was like, God, that's actually quite
deep.
And it was really,
it's an amazing thing to admit. A very vulnerable position for him to put himself into, knowing he's got to go out and do battle on the track.
And when you've got the likes of a Helmut Marko hanging over you, and you don't think your seat is safe for the year, and where do you get that confidence from? And he said Franz was amazing and helping to bring the best out of him, but he was then being incredibly hard on himself because he was crashing, because he got too confident too early because the test went so well and he was so quick and he thought he'd come out of F2 and he's used to winning races and podiums.
Points on his debut as well.
Yeah, and then everything just spiraled. But he said Alex Albon has been a huge help to him and really helped pull him up because Alex has been in a similar position. And so he was just talking about that, talking about how sad he is actually that this weekend he's not in Japan. It's supposed to be the Japanese Grand Prix this weekend. AlphaTauri and Red Bull running liveries in tribute to Honda, to the Japanese fans. It says arigato on the back of the AlphaTauri, and on the Red Bull, the whole car is just
stunning.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It's really beautiful. Wait till you have a look at it if you haven't already. But and I'm rambling again, but Yuki, just wishes he was in Japan, but lovely chat with him, and about how actually he's got that peace of mind, the presence of mind now, and is in a much better space. You spoke to Daniel Ricciardo, seeing as we're down here at McLaren now.
We are, yes, I did, and I hadn't actually seen him since Monza, so I sort of said, oh, Daniel, congratulations on Monza, and he was like, oh, thanks. Yeah. I think I can still, bask in the glory. I was like, yeah, you can, you definitely can, and I think you can see a real shift in him from that summer break, where I think he possibly went away and just perhaps didn't think about F1, just went, I'm just going to take a complete break, a mental break from trying so hard to get this car working for me and to get this McLaren going and to fighting with my teammate on the track. And he came back a different Daniel Ricciardo, perhaps more of the Daniel Ricciardo of old, and you can see that in the way that he's driving. But it's interesting about McLaren, as you've mentioned to me today, that they've had 3 weekends of very different fortunes.
Oh, hugely, because you look back to Zandvoort, horrible. I mean, they were nowhere, literally nowhere the whole weekend. Lucky to get out of it with a point with Lando. You get to Monza the next weekend where they won merit, and it was on merit as well. They were there, they were fast all the way through the weekend. Yes, there was the sprint race, but you finish where you finish, you get what you deserve. They ultimately got what they deserved out of the sprint and the Grand Prix itself, and then you get to Sochi. And in Sochi, everybody at McLaren talking about how proud they were of operationally, everything working perfectly. The pit stops were perfect, the strategy was perfect in Monza. And we all know what happened in Sochi, and it wasn't perfect. So they've had that incredible run of horrible weekend, perfect weekend, everything great, and then suddenly crumbling to nothing at the end. So they've had it all, and I think for Lando, a huge learning process for him. Last thing he wanted to talk about was Sochi. We had to a little bit, but as he admits, an awful lot learned, and that is the most important thing.
I guess the first point of call was reviewing the whole weekend of Sochi. We should spend quite a bit of time with the team. The team spent a lot of time, and also myself, analysing everything to make sure we understood what went wrong, where we made these wrong decisions and so on, and what can we just do better next time. So short and sweet, we did a lot of analysis, so I think we're in a better position for now and for the future. And then to get over my disappointment, I obviously released my go-kart and so on, so I spent a couple of days in Italy, kind of going back to where it all started in a way, which was good, because that's where you get a lot of memories as a racing driver, and it's what you enjoy so much as a kid growing up is those karting days. So doing all of that took my mind off it, and then I've been able to refresh and come back more prepared for this weekend.
Did it allow you a little bit of sort of reflective space as well, to think of how far you've come, to the fact that you're turning up here as a guy that was that close to winning a Grand Prix?
Yeah. An incredible amount. I think you're not always just in that position where you can think of those kind of things. Sometimes you take for granted the position you're suddenly in and how quickly it can happen. But then, when I went karting and then you see the kids going around, then you just think like that was you. That was you seeing maybe the Formula 1 driver, maybe it was whichever driver was there, Seb or Michael at the time. Michael was there with Mick, so it was, as a kid, such a cool thing to see and be part of that, and to be on their go-kart or whatever it was. And now I'm in that position where I can be that guy, and I can give back, and I can try and help the kids growing up. So yeah, something very special. It makes you realise that position you're in, which is very unique.
down here at Red Bull, who, as we said, are running that great livery this weekend. We actually just saw Max Verstappen walking out in his lovely new overalls, supposed to be in tribute to Honda at what would have been their last Japanese Grand Prix. It's galling for Honda, I think, to not be in Japan this weekend.
Yeah, it's really tough, isn't it? And you can sense that the whole paddock is thinking of Suzuka. Whenever the drivers are asked, oh, what's your favourite track? They, without doubt, say Suzuka or Spa. But Suzuka is one of the ones that's always touted as one of the great tracks. This track is great, obviously.
I love this
But I
place.
think a lot of people are going to really miss Japan. Next year, hopefully.
It's like those couple of years where we didn't have a Japanese Grand Prix. You know, it's lovely to be there. It's such a great track. And particularly for Honda to not... actually, one of the things that Yuki says he's most upset about for next year is the fact that with Honda pulling out, he's not going to have anybody in the paddock that can make him proper Japanese food. And he was most looking forward to getting back to Suzuka to having some proper Japanese food. Anyway,
he loves his food.
He does. You spoke to Checo earlier today.
I did, yeah, I did. I said to him, you know, you almost need a podium, not just for his own run of results, which I think he can admit himself have been below that Red Bull standard, and the standard I think that he would set himself, but also in this Constructor Championship battle as well. 33 points now between Mercedes and Red Bull.
What is it? I think over the last 6 races, Mercedes have outscored Red Bull 2-1.
Oof,
double the
costly.
points. Yeah,
costly.
but that's absolutely huge, particularly when you look at the Drivers' Championship and the gap, as we were saying at the top. So just that couple of points, double.
I know,
double
and
points.
Checo knows it's important, and he said we need to have a complete weekend. Both me and Max Verstappen need to have a weekend where we are both absolutely on top form, and then it will start to happen for them.
We will hear from
He's done
Max
a lot of work.
Verstappen shortly. Valtteri Bottas is the driver that I spoke to, who posted a bit of a naughty Instagram post after the
got a
Russian
laugh there.
Well,
It's all, you know,
because the big question mark over
F1
Mercedes
memes,
at the
we love it.
moment is engines. Because of course they gave Valtteri another one and slung him to the back of the field, and he had to fight his way through, and then they said, well, it might be a bit not optimum anymore, so you might have to have another new one, and does Lewis need a new one? And Valtteri posted the picture of a massive junkyard full of old engines with him sort of staring at them. And I said, you'd get in trouble for that. He goes, no one mentioned it. He said, but I thought it was funny.
Well, there you go.
I did say, do you care anymore what they think? And he just sort of gave me an eyes up like that. So I don't think he does really. But it's all fun. It's all fun. I think, you know, he's enjoying himself right now. Just a couple of races left down here. But the most interesting part, obviously, and why we haven't spoken about Max or Lewis, is the World Championship, 2 points in it. You spoke to both Max and Lewis. I haven't heard what they had to say yet, but what were they like? Because from the impression that I'm getting from what I heard of them in the press conference and what I've seen written is that they are both going into these final 7 races in very different frames of mind. Absolutely.
I honestly sound more excited about the title fight than Max Verstappen is
Yes.
at the moment.
Yeah.
He said in the press conference, my life won't change if I come first or second.
It won't be the end of the world.
I understand
Whatever.
that approach, completely understand that approach. He's just playing down the expectation, playing it cool, staying focused, and he knows that if I do my best week in, week out, if the team does its best week in, week out, that's all we can do. That's all we can ask of each other. And if it happens, it happens. But I spoke to Lewis Hamilton in the pen, and there was a different tone from him, a different approach, a different energy from him, which was basically to say, yes, I've won 100, but I've still got a fight to win. I may have won that battle, but you know, the fight is on, the war is on here this season. We'll hear now what Lewis has to say. Well, Lewis, congratulations, 100 wins. It looks like you've had a great week since as well. How do you reflect on the achievement now?
I haven't actually thought of it since the day, so no, I've bumped into a lot of people that have congratulated me and received a lot of messages. It's been quite overwhelming, I would say, but yeah, I've been super busy, so just move on. Like, what's next?
Well, straight into another race week, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm still trying to fight for this championship and trying to stay in it, and it's super close and stressful, and so I'm just trying to find ways of applying myself to other things whilst at the same time being focused on my job.
And Toto Wolff has suggested you may take the engine penalty here should it rain. Do you have any further information on that at all?
I don't. At the moment, I still have engine 2 and 3, so for me, I'm fighting to just use those 2 and see how far they can take me.
Well, Max, it was the best possible result, really, wasn't it, in Sochi? how have you been since? What are the hopes coming into this weekend with the title fight as close as it is?
Yeah, I mean, second for us was a really good result in Russia, and yeah, now just looking ahead. I mean, this is a bit of a question mark because of last year, being not really representative. So I hope the grip levels will be a lot better this year, and then we'll find out throughout practice, of course, how competitive we're going to be.
And there is the suggestion, should it rain, that Lewis Hamilton will take an engine penalty. Your thoughts on that, if he starts at the back of the grid?
Well, I mean, I think they still have to, of course, take one engine, so it's up to them, of course, what they do with it. I mean, we did it last race, and we'll find out when they take it.
Lovely to hear from Lewis and from Max, and that, I believe, is pretty much it from your weekend warm-up. Laura Winter.
It's prediction time, isn't
it?
It
is, it always is. Thank you, I almost forgot where we were going. Predictions? Yes, yeah, I don't know, which I think is what we all think about this weekend. I sense it's a really unpredictable one. Well, it depends on the weather, doesn't it?
It
Massively.
does.
Because you would never predict a George Russell top 3 on the grid last time out in Sochi.
No. And so with that in mind, I am saying a Sergio Perez podium.
Okay.
And I would love to see Fernando Alonso on the podium as well.
A Checo-Fernando double podium. I love it.
Winner.
Okay.
Shall I go winner? Do you want me to say winner?
Well, is it either one of those two? Or
no.
Oh, you're going for the full 3.
I'm going Max Verstappen to win.
Okay, Max Checo Fernando or Max Fernando Checo?
Oh, don't ask me that. I don't know.
My prediction is that Laura Winter is wrong. No,
Probably.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Lewis Hamilton on the podium, playing it safe.
I was about to say that's not bold in the slightest, is it?
It's
really?
not. Along with Charles Leclerc.
Oh.
But between them, second and third, and Lando Norris win. Why not? Because with the rain, he's been very, 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 very good in quali, particularly in the wet. So that's it, making amends for last time out. And you can see Laura Winter and I destitute next week, having lost all our money with our ridiculous bets this week. That's it from us. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for everything, Laura.
Thanks, Will. This has been ridiculous, hasn't it?
It's been great. Have a good weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.